Ahoy everybody! One of the most common questions I get asked is how much does it cost to go sailing? And well, after about 6 weeks of going through credit card, debit card statements, organizing, collating, adding and subtracting all the data, crunching the numbers, I have an answer for you. $16,853. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for commenting, liking, subscribing, donating. And I'll be back soon with more videos for you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. All right, let's break this down. I think when people ask me how much it costs to go sailing, what they're asking is, just given the general slant to the questions and also the sort of channel that I run, I think what they're asking is how much does it cost if you're on a budget? Or how much does it cost if you're on the low end of the cost curve? Of course, we see these YouTube channels of people with 50-plus foot boats, big catamarans. It's very sumptuous and luxurious and glamorous, especially on camera. Of course, not everybody could bankroll something like that. So I think what people are asking me is that if I'm not a multi-millionaire, is it still possible to go off sailing around the world in my own little ship? If I sail a fairly modest and simple boat, like the boat I sail, how much would it cost me for a year to sail? And so I've gone through all my expenses here for 1 year and put it all together for you. So let's get into that right now. So I've broken my expenses down into several categories. The first category we'll look at is groceries. As you can see, my grocery costs are fairly consistent month to month, generally between about $300 and $400 a month. If you look down at the bottom, the average cost per month was $373 and change for a annual total of $4,483. And month to month, it's pretty consistent. There was a drop November, December 2018. That's because I was offshore. There's no grocery stores offshore. And by the way, I'm not living on rice and beans, especially since I've gone to a lower carb diet. I'm mainly eating meat and vegetables, both of which are expensive items in supermarkets. So I'm not starving myself, and I'm eating pretty well. Next up are communication costs. So this is my cell phone. Any times I've had to pay for Wi-Fi connections, and then also my Boothby Boats website, just to keep that domain. So that is not consistent. It goes up and down. Total for the year was $664 for phone and Wi-Fi, averaging $55 per month, which is actually a little more expensive than I thought it would be. And then my website cost me about $18 a month to maintain. Next up is hardware and marine supplies. Almost all of this is items I've purchased for the boat. As you can see, the cost jumps all over the place from month to month. Some piece of equipment breaks and you have to replace it, and so you get a big bill. However, it always peaks around the time of year that I haul the boat out. In 2018, that was in September, so you can see there's a big jump in cost because I'm buying things like bottom paint, which will generally run me $500 or $600, as well as topside paint, varnish. I also replaced several halyards that year, replaced some of the blocks aloft because I took the mast down. And that marine hardware, that adds up pretty quickly. So average cost per month was $579, and total annual cost was a little under $7,000 for the year. So even though Ruth Avery is a fairly small and simple boat, as you can see, she's not cheap. I I think this underscores the old Lynn and Larry Pardee adage of going small and going simple. Even a small, simple boat cost me nearly $7,000 in marine supplies in a year, and this is not including the haul-out fee. I think you'll find as boats get over about 40 feet, those costs rise quite rapidly. Take a look at a marine store catalog at the price of something like sheet blocks, and just look at how the price rises as the blocks get larger. So next we move on to clothing gear, and I also included books, which nowadays is mostly my Kindle downloads. Not a whole lot of consistency there. You can see in October, November, big bill there. I included the purchase of my first drone, the Splash drone, in that. So that was $1,700. And then I later had to purchase a new camera for it. And then I ended up dumping the whole thing on eBay for $200. So this was actually a pretty expensive year. The Splash drone was an expensive mistake. I made another video on that. Although that did also include the purchase of the Phantom 3, which I got off eBay for $300, and that turned out to be a good investment. It also included a new foul weather jacket. I bought West Marine's Third Reef foul weather gear, and after about 2 years I found the cloth simply was no longer waterproof, and I tried waterproofing it and it just didn't work, so I ended up buying a new foul weather coat. So that got folded into that as well as other purchases like new shorts and shirts and jeans and sandals and so forth. So next is dinner, travel, entertainment. Generally I eat in. I cook my own food, so I don't spend a lot of money at restaurants. And for the most part, travel for me, the biggest expenses are rental cars. Occasionally I rent cars because it's just the most convenient thing to do. But since I live on a boat and I travel on the boat, I'm already traveling, so I almost never spend money on airfare or anything like that. That might be different for other people, especially couples who have children. And a lot of cruisers are retired couples, so they have grandchildren too. And so they would probably have bigger bills on this because they're flying off to see their grandkids and over the holidays and so forth. So I average just a little over $40 a month in this category. So not a whole lot of money spent there. So now we get to the category where the no inboard engine boat really shines in the cost department. And this is fuel, which for me is gasoline for the outboard, 3.5 horse outboard, and propane for my stove. And also folded in there somewhere is the little bit of kerosene I use for the lamps. Now that I have LED running lights, it's really just the trawler lamp in the cabin, which I almost never use down in the tropics because it's too hot. So that's a pretty small cost. That's maybe $40 a year. So overall, about $13 a month. So that's not a whole lot there. During March and April, that's when I was in Key West, and I remember it was over a mile each way to the dinghy dock, and a marathon was over 2 miles to the dinghy dock. So I burned some fuel there, but still not a whole lot of money. And yet another category where the engineless boat shines, at least as far as cost goes, is dockage. And mainly just because it's such a pain to get in and out of marinas when you don't have an engine, you end up not going into marinas very often. However, I have taken some moorings. I took that mooring in Key West for a month, and that was $340. And I also included, even though I was anchored in Marathon, to use the dinghy dock was $90 for a week, so I purchased a couple of weeks there. So overall, we ended up $82 a month on average for dockage. I also included August, September when I was hauled out on the hard. I had to buy a marina pass so I could use the showers and the laundry and so forth, even though I was hauled out in the yard. So I also put that under the category of dockage, and that was $138 in August and September. But overall, I don't spend a lot of money on dockage. And we come to boatyard bills. Most of the time that's nothing because I only haul out once a year. So you can see October, November, $1,358, and then I had a remaining bill from the yard I got in December for another $70. So the year total for that was $1,428. And although it's a little meaningless to say cost per month since it was just really just 1 month that I got the bill. And again, this was a more expensive than usual year since I had the mast pulled that year. And the mast pull was nearly $1,100. Generally, haul in and out is $300 to $400 for my boat. And finally, we have the catch-all cash withdrawals, mostly money from ATM machines or cash back at the grocery store. And I took out almost $60 a month in cash. So now we get to the grand totals here. The cost of sale for 1 calendar year from 2018 to 2019 was $19,402 and change. However, I'm going to adjust that down. The reason being that I paid $3,000 for the new Fatty Knees dinghy after a local ran over my nutshell pram and totaled it. However, the man's insurance company compensated me $2,550 for my loss. So I've subtracted off $2,550 to get my adjusted 1-year cost. And the logic here being that I'm only considering costs which were costs to me. And since that effectively only $450 came out of my pocket for the new dinghy, I'm only going to count it as $450, even though I paid $3,000 and then got reimbursed for a good part of it. So the total 1-year cost, now adjusted, is $16,852, which works out to an average cost per month of $1,404. Well, speaking of saving money, I saved money on this graphics program. It was free. I got it on the internet. But anyway, it serves the purpose in drawing a pie chart just to give you an idea of the relative magnitude of the different expenses. The biggest expense overall was hardware and marine supplies. So still the boat cost the most amount of money, and that was 36% of the pie. And the next biggest chunk was groceries, was food. That was 23%. And then we get to clothing, gear, and books, which included the price of the drones, also a price of camera gear. I bought a GoPro. So that was 17%. Then we come down to boatyard haul-out costs. That was a little over 7%. Then all the rest were relatively small slices of the pie there. So it was really the biggest cost was still the boat, even though the boat's fairly small and simple. So keep that in mind when you're buying a boat, how much it's going to cost to run it. And then after that was groceries and food. So I hope that helps some of you who are planning to go off on an extended cruise, or perhaps simply to move aboard your boat and make it your life as I have. Now I know some of you are wondering how I go about financing this. Most of my funding comes from my savings and investments from the years I spent working, and mainly the 7 years I spent in the corporate world. I worked 5 years at Arthur Andersen in Chicago, and then another 2 years at Merrill Lynch Commodities down in Houston, Texas. It also helps that I've always been a saver, even perhaps a miser, you might say. I can recall back when I was in graduate school, living in Chicago. I think my stipend was around $14,000 a year, but despite living in Chicago and all that, I still managed to put $2,000 a year in my IRA. So I was pretty focused in that regard on saving. And then when I started work at Merrill Lynch Commodities down in Houston, Texas, I remember I got a one-bedroom apartment. And if I remember, the monthly rent was $275 a month. So I was just dirt cheap, and I was earning more than $14,000 a year at Merrill Lynch, and I never even put any furniture in the apartment. I think I just had a collapsible lawn chair, and I had a small wooden desk, and then just a mattress on the floor, and that was it. And that was fine by me. And so I was just funneling my income into savings. And I planned to work there about 4 years, but 2008, the subprime mortgage meltdown, even though I wasn't in the mortgage business, that was the end of my job. So that's when I moved back aboard for good. I've been living aboard ever since 2008. And as far as investment, most of my money is in equity mutual funds. And I've been invested in mutual funds for over 20 years now, and I found that's, in the long run, I think stocks are a good investment. At least they have been for me. Now, having said all that, I also am starting to earn some extra income from your kind donations to this channel, which I really appreciate. And I'm mentioning that by way of hint, hint. There's a PayPal link just below the video. Feel free to hit that, and thank you very much for donating to the channel, as well as liking and subscribing and commenting, and helping me to build this channel up. Really appreciate that. So I'll be back with some more videos, and I hope all this was useful and informative to you. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.